Hello and welcome to Good Morning Thailand. In today's episode, we will be talking about 5 more provinces that have been added and are reopening on the 1st of October to foreign tourists, F1 motorsport, driving in Thailand, and mixing vaccines. That's all coming up on today's Good Morning Thailand. You're watching Good Morning Thailand with me, Jay, and joining me in today's episode is Michael Kenner, once again.
Good morning.
And to add some class and beauty to the show today, we've invited Arina.
Thanks for having me, Jay.
You're very welcome. Now, all of you who have been watching the episodes this week are aware of Mike and his awesomeness, but let me just introduce Arina. Arina, you are from?
Thailand.
You are from Thailand, okay,
Yeah.
Confirmed.
Confirmed.
And where in Thailand are you from?
Well, I was actually born and raised in Phuket,
Okay.
so pure Thai. I do have a German father,
Okay.
but yeah, otherwise.
Right, half Thai, half German, so she's qualified to make Thai opinions. Right, just wanted to get that clear. So let's just start off, guys, today with a quick COVID update. Today in Thailand, we had 14,403 new COVID infections, 189 COVID-related deaths, 15,610 people have recovered and been discharged from hospitals, 141,642 people still currently in care. Those are the COVID updates for Thailand today. Let's just get right into it. The first story we're going to be talking about today is that 5 more provinces have been added to the list of places that will be opening up on October 1st. Mike, do we have any more news on that?
Well, I think that because Arina can give us the correct pronunciations for the provinces. Arina, do you want to give us the 5 provinces that are actually opening?
Yes, so we have Bangkok, Chonburi, Phetchaburi, Prachuap Khiri Khan, and Chiang Mai that will open to foreign tourists starting October 1st.
Okay.
So I think this is, it's been quoted that down to the success of the Phuket sandbox that these are now opening. We don't know in really what capacity, if it's a 7-day, and they're allowing, vaccinated travellers to do a sandbox in Phuket and then head on like they're allowing for Samui and Hua Hin to these other provinces. But I think it's good news overall. This is what we want. We want Thailand to open up. Arina, what do you think?
I think it's a great idea. We want to see everyone getting back to normal. We've been kind of living in the past, kind of, in a way. I think, in my opinion, because COVID has just stopped everything.
Yeah.
And it's time to move on.
Right. This is following all the news that we were talking during the week of Hua Hin first being the province talking about the Hua Hin recharge plan that was going to open up on October 1st. Now that plan actually has had some drawbacks. However, I see that more and more provinces are following the lead of Hua Hin, of Phuket Sandbox, Samui Plus, and trying to once again bring back tourists to Thailand. Now let's move on to a little more Thai news, and in Thai motorsport actually. Arina, give us an update. What has been going on in Thai motorsport?
Well, Albon has returned to F1. The former Red Bull driver was the reserve and test driver for Red Bull throughout the year after he lost his seat to Sergio Perez for 2021. Alex has been competing at the German Touring Car Championship, but now he has F1 car racing seat for 2022 under Williams F1 team along Nicholas Latifi.
That's right, that is his teammate, Nicholas Latifi from Canada. Alex is one of the most exciting young talents. He is a Thai-British national, however, he races under Thai nationality and under the Thai flag. He used to be driving for Red Bull in 2019, however, he lost his seat because he couldn't keep up with his amazing teammate and just some lackluster performances that were not up to Red Bull's parts. But he's now back, and it's a very proud moment for Thai people and Thai racing in general, now that he's back into F1. Mike, do you watch F1 at all?
Not really. I used to.
That's fair.
Yeah. You get enough of it on the Thailand roads to really need to watch any Formula One out there. Just go down the road and you can see a load of nutters drive. So,
That's a very fair comment. Yeah, Alex being one of the most exciting young talents. We all wish him well at his new adventure starting in 2002 for Williams Racing Team. As for now, we'll take a quick break and we'll be back right after the top stories with Caitlin.
Hi, it's Kate with the Thaiger here with today's top headlines. Just days after defeating the no-confidence vote, Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha has ousted the Deputy Minister of Agriculture as well as the Deputy Minister of Labor. The command was issued on Wednesday and published yesterday in the Royal Gazette, officially removing them from the cabinet. Prayut says the removals were for the benefit of the government, suggesting that some ministers be removed. When pressed for details, the Prime Minister merely said he had his own reasons for the shakeup. The Agriculture Minister, who had been accused of trying to oust Prayut through the no-confidence debate, told reporters at Parliament he had signed a letter of resignation and told them he cannot share the same path as the Prime Minister. Following the no-confidence vote, Thailand's opposition parties said they plan to take legal action against Prayut and several of his ministers, as a number of irregularities that arose in the 4-day debate have not been addressed, such as a clear answer on the procurement details for China's Sinovac COVID-19 vaccine. With Phuket's domestic entry restrictions easing up this week, the Provincial Public Health Office is warning people arriving to the island that they need a COVID-19 test result from a nasal cavity swab and not a saliva test. The health officials say they will not issue confirmation documents for antigen tests that only use saliva, and those with those tests will be turned away at the island's main checkpoint. Proof of vaccination against COVID-19 as well as a negative result from a COVID-19 test is required to enter Phuket unless under certain circumstances. Domestic tourists are now allowed to enter the island province but must book and pay for their accommodation in advance. Health officials warn that those without the proper documents will be denied entry. The Ministry of Public Health is planning to launch a digital health pass platform to be used during air travel. The passes will display vaccination status, COVID-19 results, and past infection details. The health passes will be valid for up to 3 years. The ministry says the health passes would be through the MoreProm platform. MoreProm has been used as a smartphone application as well as an application on the messaging platform Line. It was used to set vaccine appointments and is now providing users with a digital vaccine certificate. The ministry plans to develop the system into what they call a national health platform. In Chiang Mai, following the recovery of a missing child who is almost 2 years old and the arrest of a suspect who allegedly claims he kidnapped the girl to sacrifice her to the spirits of the mountain and forest, an organization that helps find missing people says they don't believe the story and thinks the motives were much more sinister. The Mirror Foundation works to help search efforts for missing people. With its broad experience with missing children, they say the vast majority of kidnappings like this are motivated by human trafficking or sex crimes. The child from a remote village in Chiang Mai was missing for 3 days. A 44-year-old Burmese man allegedly admitted to kidnapping the girl, saying the spirits told him they wanted a child. He told investigators where he had left the child, and she was later found in a hut near a cave. In Phuket, 15 people were arrested on illegal gambling charges after police raided an alleged gambling den around midnight yesterday. The police also confiscated hundreds of green cards and orange cards, a variety of poker chips, a deck of playing cards, a counter, and a tablecloth used for gambling, among other items. But it doesn't seem like much money was on the table, as only 740 baht in cash was seized. Along with the gambling charges, they will also face charges under the emergency degree for holding a gathering that risked the spread of COVID-19. And those are the top headlines today. Now back to the show.
And welcome back to Good Morning Thailand. You're watching the show with me, Jay, Arina, and Mike. And now we're going to look into a little bit about vaccination in Thailand. Now, guys, starting from next Tuesday, health officials in Bangkok have said that they will replace the 2 doses of AstraZeneca with 1 dose of Sinovac and the 2nd dose of AstraZeneca. So they will now be mixing your first dose to your 2nd dose. And I bring this up, and it's relevant currently in this room because I've had 2 doses of Sinovac. Mike, you've had 1 dose of AstraZeneca and you will be having your 2nd dose very soon. However, Arina, you've actually had your 1st dose of Sinovac and your 2nd is going to be AstraZeneca. And you don't really have a choice about that, do you?
No, so my line of work basically forces me to get the vaccinations, and we don't have the choice.
Okay.
Well, at least in the group of people that I was vaccinated with. I do meet clients from overseas, abroad, and other people coming from other provinces, so there is that risk involved, and it's terrifying to, get this cocktail of vaccination, basically just the mix.
It is a bit scary, and I agree. I'll ask Mike's opinion very shortly, but I have some little information for you. So, in respect to what Arina was saying, the mixing of vaccines, there's still a lot of data that needs to be collecting regarding this, and that's why so many people have their reservations. For example, respected virus expert Yung Puvarawan from Thailand, insisted that mixing and matching vaccines is safe and effective. However, contrary to what she said, World Health Organization Chief Scientist Soumya Swaminathan has advised people against mixing these vaccines. So, you've got World Health Organization saying one thing, virologist experts in Thailand saying another thing. What do the people believe? What do they do? Mike, any comments?
Well, yesterday evening I actually qualified as a virologist online by Google during my research. So for anyone out there, I'm now qualified. Not really, by the way, just in case you take me too seriously. But I think that when we talk about these organisations like the WHO, I think initially they came out and said all sorts of things about the virus early on, and they were proven to be incorrect about, keeping travel open, which eventually they stopped. So I think, we can't really take one source, for actual, this is the correct way to do things. I think everything's got to take with a pinch of salt. But, in terms of mix and matching vaccines, from my research only, this has been done before. And it's nothing new. It's quite common for this to happen. I think the only issue is that we're probably running live trials as opposed to test trials. I mean, technically you're the guinea pig in how this all works out. But I think the concept of mix and matching vaccines has already happened.
Yes. So, did you have a choice, Arina, by the way?
No, I didn't.
So you couldn't pick what vaccine you could get?
No.
They just told you?
Basically.
And that was your only choice?
Yeah.
That's exactly it. We don't have Pfizer, we don't have Moderna, we have to get the vaccines that are available. And as a foreigner living in Thailand, I have been given my vaccine for free by the Thai government as I work here and I've got a work permit. Any foreigner living in Thailand with a valid work permit can receive these vaccines, so I'm grateful for that. However, at the same time, there is not much room for personal choice regarding what vaccine I can get. All right. Any further comments, Mike?
Yeah, I've got a few as always.
Okay.
I think that, look, we all know that the research is saying around the Sinovac vaccine that it's not fully effective against this whole Delta variant. So I think, where do we go? If they want to roll out double vaccines, I think, they have to provide some sort of booster shot that's slightly different. So I don't technically think it's a bad idea, because mixing vaccines usually improves, the immune response. I've been reading stuff, on my journey. A few more things to add. I think no one's really assessed the safety of mixing these two vaccines. I think we're going to find this out. If Arina comes back on the show next week and live.
Yeah, we'll see the results next week.
We'll keep you updated. All right, so that's it for those comments about the mixing the vaccines. Let us know what you think. What do you think about mixing one vaccine with another? Should they do it? Should they not do it? Who should they listen to? Everybody has their own opinion and everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Whatever you think about vaccinations or vaccines in general, let us know in the comment section below. As for now, we're going to take a quick break into the regional headlines. We'll be back right after this. The death toll from a devastating prison fire in Indonesia has risen to 44, as families rush to submit DNA samples to identify inmates' remains. North Korea put tractors and fire engines on show rather than the more usual tanks and missiles at a parade in Pyongyang early on Thursday. The nuclear-armed nation's third procession in less than a year. The UN nuclear watchdog on Thursday promised a comprehensive and objective review of Japan's controversial plan to release treated water from the stricken Fukushima nuclear plant into the sea. Chinese authorities have ordered gaming giants Tencent and NetEase to end their focus on profits and cut content, perceived to be breeding effeminacy as Beijing tries to direct youth culture gender ideals, and the reach of big tech. At least one person died and 17 were missing after a storm dumped heavy rain and caused flooding in the Philippines. Authorities said on Thursday as a powerful typhoon barreled towards the country on Thursday. Welcome, and you're watching Good Morning Thailand. Now, we're going to be talking about driving in Thailand, which has been a hot topic for the last possible 50 years, and everyone has an opinion, and most of the general opinion always says that driving in Thailand is horrible, it's very dangerous. So I'm going to start with this statement right here, and you can tell me if you agree with this or not. Thailand's roads are the most dangerous in the world. Arina, I'm going to start off with you. How do you feel about that?
I think it definitely hits the top of the list.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. Mike?
I would say it's definitely up there. I mean, in some capacity, yes.
Okay. Well, yes, it is considered one of the most dangerous places in the world to drive, especially in, highly densely populated places and perhaps also other provinces. But let me tell you about Thailand's ambitious plan. The government has made a commitment under the Stockholm Declaration last February to cut the number of traffic fatalities and serious injuries by half in 2030 and reach their ambitious target of 0 deaths and serious injuries by 2050. Now, going on how many times things change in Thailand, I'm guessing this number 0 will also change by the time we reach 2050. However, very ambitious. 2050 is not that far away, I guess, if you look at it in perspective of our age, I guess. Not everyone's.
Maybe not
but Mike, not so much.
Come on.
But what do you think about this? A lot of people consider Thailand to be very dangerous. There are a lot of road accidents. From a study done in 2018, we had an approximate of 49 deaths per day in Thailand. What do you think is the number one cause of road accidents in Thailand, Arina?
Well, the motorbikes, speeding.
Speeding, that is correct. Speeding is the number one cause of road accidents in Thailand. Mike, what are your thoughts on this?
I've got lots of thoughts on this. I think if I'll say why, it's no enforcement compounded by loads of corruption. That is why there are so many deaths on the road in Thailand. And we can break it down into more detail. I can just basically, I look at where I live, right? I mean, people are very clear to wear a mask. Everyone's driving around bikes on masks. Not one of them is wearing a helmet. I mean, the irony of this is just ridiculous. Everyone's driving around masked up, no helmets. 10 people on a bike, all masked, no helmets. If you're not wearing a helmet, you hit the floor. The chances are you're gonna hurt yourself. So, but there's all different things. I think obviously speeding is one, which means where is the enforcement? Do we want to go to a case where the West, where there's traffic cameras everywhere, speed cameras, really taking out the enjoyment of driving, because we do enjoy driving. So I think the next one is drunken driving. If we look at the province where we're in, which is called Phuket, in this province, because there is no public transport that exists at all, when people go out drinking at night, it costs an absolute fortune to get back if you go to another area. So, because of the extortionate fees that these taxi companies and tuk-tuk drivers, which is pure corruption, are charging. So because there is no public transport, people drive back drunk because it's too expensive to come back. So, the government could really kind of fix this by implementing, just buses that go around, but for some unknown reason where we live, this hasn't been, this doesn't exist. But in other provinces it does. But, so is it just weak enforcement by the police and, lots of corruption going on where, if you're drunk and you're tired, you give them some money, you go through so you don't learn your lesson.
Yeah.
They'll enforce no helmets for everyone else but foreigners. Is it down to the weak enforcement by the police? That's the question.
Could be. All right, let's get a Thai perspective. Arina, why do you think people in Thailand are so, I don't know what exact word to use, don't care much?
Chilled,
relaxed
yeah.
about the rules of speeding or breaking the signal or amount of people on a bike or just any road safety rules in general?
It is, referring to Mike's point that we don't have many consequences on the situation. We do see families that drive by the police with no helmets with 5 people on the bike, and then they get past, and then we see the foreigners coming by and with the helmets, with their licenses, but the cops still want to stop them and check all their IDs. It is, yeah.
So sometimes the foreigners are targeted in certain tourist areas, not everywhere. But yes, there does seem to be a time where you see foreigners being stopped, but sometimes, you know, the Thai citizens being driving by. Mike, have you ever been stopped?
Yeah, you know, quite a few times. I mean, when I came here, young and foolish, which was actually yesterday, a good time ago when I came here, I haven't been on a bike before, and I don't think many people who are coming here have ever ridden a bike. I mean, there's a few that have. So you just suddenly have a motorbike and the pure freedom, no license, and it's fine, just take one out. There's no, do you have a bike license? No, you just get a bike with no insurance on it and just drive around. And this is kind of the kind of expat, you know, tourist, you know, kind of vibe that goes around. And usually, you know, especially in the tourist provinces, the people who are driving like absolute nutcases are the tourists. You know, I always pull up, and there's always like specifically where I live, there's always like a French group just vroom, vroom, vroom on the bike, bouncing along.
With their shirts off.
Yeah, with no clothes. I mean, the whole thing, people come in, they lose their minds, that's part of it. But I think if you then extend the question out, which is outside the tourist areas, to, you know, why are more than 20,000 people a year dying on the roads in Thailand? It's because there is no enforcement, and you know, if you get caught speeding, what is the consequence? Like, how much they charge you?
500 baht fine.
500 baht fine.
Yeah. Compared to the West, it's pocket money.
Yeah, and the thing is that in say the UK where I'm from, if you get caught speeding, you would either get points to your license. More points does not equal more prizes, definitely in this case. Eventually your license will be taken away and you'll be banned and disqualified. And then you can end up with a custodial, you know, sentence if you abuse this. But in Thailand, it's kind of like, well, here you go, here's a slap on the wrist, just go out and do it again. And I think that is what's causing this predominantly.
Right. Now, talking about law enforcement and the law being enforced in terms of speeding, if we got cameras and police, you know, and got a lot more stricter, do you think that would take away from the experience of coming to holiday on Thailand? Because a lot of people do come here for that relaxed atmosphere. You know, you can come to Thailand, rent a motorbike, license, no questions asked, and just, you know, drive your motorbike to the beach at night, during the day, in the morning. Everybody's chilled and relaxed. Now, wouldn't that take away from one of the main, you know, attractions of Thailand, like how everything is a lot more, you know, chilled and relaxed? Would that take away from the tourists? Is that why the laws aren't being enforced?
Well, I think, to answer your first question, would it take away from the overall experience? I think, of course, it would. I think people come to Thailand because it's so different from where they originate. I mean, I'm just thinking about my family who, in relation to, you know, they would never go on a bike. They would have a child and put a car seat in facing the other way. You know, all these rules. They're probably wearing safety helmets in the car and bubbles. I mean, it's all gone way too far. So I think that people come here because they like a more relaxed, they like freedom, they like more rights. And I think that's really what Thailand actually gives you. It gives you more freedom. So I think that there definitely has to be a balance. I mean, you can't get 18-year-old boys turning up, you know, in their height of puberty, coming here and driving like nutcases and injuring themselves. I mean, you go to the hospitals, you see tourists all the time with bandages over themselves and causing problems, and it creates a real distaste amongst Thai people. I mean, Arina, this is a good question for you actually. When you see, you know, because this is your country, when you see young foreigners on the road driving like maniacs, and you know they've been here for only a few days, how does that make you feel? Do you feel they're coming here disrespecting your country, or do you feel like, hey, this is okay?
I mean, it depends on the situation as well. Sometimes you see those crazy young foreigners that are driving like crazy, basically making it dangerous for other people to drive on the roads. So when you see that, it does affect, like, why would you come and disrespect us and think, you know, you can do whatever you want? But then at the same time, we do have the foreigners that are here and they're, you know, on holidays, saving up for their holidays, and they do drive, like, you know, nicely, like they're just enjoying themselves. They're just certain groups that I guess do make the Thais angry.
Right, I agree with what you said, Arina, and Mike, so what you said regarding earlier as well. I think if you do try to enforce something, it should be perhaps having a driving license and also making it difficult to achieve a driving license in Thailand. Now, if you have an international license, fair play. It's a lot more difficult to get a license in Western countries. However, in Thailand, I think it's a little bit too easy. When I got my license, around 10 years ago, it took me half a day to get my license. I just went and got a general health certificate. I did my exam in the morning. I did a driving test, which was on a course, nobody sitting next to me, for about 10 minutes. And then I was qualified to drive on the streets of Thailand. And not just, I didn't have to do it in manual, automatic car, small car, big car. It kind of qualifies me to drive any car I want in Thailand, except for perhaps big buses. Which I wouldn't want to anyways. But, how is it so easy to get a license? And let's be honest, we're living in Thailand, you can even buy a license, allegedly.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know people that have done it, so
Yeah.
we've been offered it. But I think, listen, it highlights two issues in my opinion. Number one is that the infrastructure in say, CBD areas for public transport does not exist, so like it does in the West. So driving is a necessity to get around.
Yes.
So they have to enable people to drive. Otherwise, you just can't do anything. You can't go down to the shops. If you especially live in rural Thailand, where the nearest 7-Eleven is through a load of trees, on a very bumpy road, you're not going to be walking in the middle of the night. So you have to actually get down there. So because there is a lack of infrastructure across Thailand in relation to public transport that exists in more developed countries, you need to be able to drive. So I think the government needs to make it accessible. And I think the second point it highlights is that Thailand is a relatively poor country in general. Now, people can't afford to keep their bikes and cars in good condition. I mean, how many people do we see on the roads that have no lights? Driving on the motorbike in the middle of the night with no lights on, with bald tyres, in 15-year-old bikes that probably aren't worthy to go around a bicycle circuit. I mean, this is the reality, and I think because of the poverty that exists across Thailand, people can't maintain. So there's probably a lot of accidents that are happening amongst the lower class, poor communities that are blowing out tyres, that don't have the correct equipment or cannot afford the correct equipment. So I think it's a lack of infrastructure. So if I was going to go now, summarise where I was going, a lack of infrastructure, the poverty in Thailand, and pure corruption across the whole board. I think these three is creating an environment for huge amounts of deaths.
Right.
Poor roads.
And poor roads, yeah. I mean, which is an interesting one as well.
Yeah. So, certain parts of Thailand, some of the roads are quite shocking. Arina, have you had any personal experiences, getting, whether it's regarding getting a ticket or anyone that has experienced corruption or scams, I would say, in terms of driving in Thailand?
Well, I mean, I've had friends experience the tourist helmet scam. Basically, they start doing checkpoints in the middle of the mountains, and then they get stopped. They say you don't have a certain document, and they get scammed.
Yeah.
They get fined.
They'll always it'll be at the turn where you can't turn back anymore.
Yeah.
So it's you're driving and you've turned and it's too late until you've seen the police and you have to stop. And the nearest police station they make you park the bike, so you have to walk to the nearest police station, which is always quite far away. Or you can just, quickly pay the fine nearby and just get on with your day. That's what most people would do anyways. And I guess that's where the word corruption gets thrown around. Is it completely legal? We don't know. We don't question it. Just go on with our day.
We're complicit in it. I mean, we say corruption because they're charging us for no helmets and they're targeting us. The reality is that the rules are you have to wear a helmet. So we're already in breach of the rules and regulations. And then we're just saying, well, okay, you're having double standards in relation to us. Why are you not looking at them? But I think initially, we are breaking the rules.
Yeah.
The rules do exist here to have a tax bike, a helmet on the bike, good tread on the bike. They do check all this. I mean, I've had police stop me and check my insurance and tax and tread on the wheels. So they do actually check all this stuff. It's part of the regulation. I mean, it's just not widely observed anywhere.
Okay, right. And we'd love to know your comments and your feelings about driving in Thailand. What do you think about driving in Thailand? Road safety, speeding, corruption, Thai police. Let us know your experiences in the comments section below. As for today, I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you do, please subscribe. Arina, please tell them to subscribe.
Give us a like and subscribe.
Right, Arina said it, so you have to now. I mean, you have to.
Subscribe.
Well, that's it. That's all we have for today's episode. I would like to thank Arina for joining us. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me again, Jay.
Thank you for being on the show. And Mike, thank you.
Thank you.
And lastly, but not least, Jason behind the buttons. We hope you have a good Friday and a wonderful weekend. From all of us here at the Thaiger, this is goodbye.